Thank you, Julia. Welcome to Recovery Dharma, everybody. My name is Josh, and I'm one of the facilitators here at the Spokane Sangha. Um, Here at Soul Center, we explore monthly topics. And the topic this month, as we're traveling through the year, um, we're studying and exploring and discussing the basic tenets of Buddhism on a monthly basis. We started this year with the Four Noble Truths in months 1 through 4. And now we are traveling along the Noble Eightfold Path. And so here in July, we've landed on the third of the step along the Noble Eightfold Path of wise action. And Julia's introduced a couple of phrases going along with this of wise action being real and its converse of being false. Um, Wise action, almost by definition, requires truth and honesty. Um, and I know from firsthand experience, I can imagine sitting in a recovery program room that I'm not alone, that honesty is, one of the first things to go when dealing with habit energy. Negative habit energy, for those who are new here, is how we refer to the thoughts and behaviors and actions that we engage um, in our various disorders, substance use and process addictions. And um, I was a Olympic level liar for so long. Um, and it was so funny when I would be dishonest with myself, how I could play these little mental gymnastics of telling myself a story that I knew was not true, but also convincing myself to believe it, merely out of convenience so that it would allow me to continue um, engaging in whatever behaviors I was up to, depending on the year and the decade. But it's what I've learned in this practice is, it wasn't really the brand that was important. What was going on with Josh in the 80s was different than Josh in you know, the early 2000s and the 2010s. Um, and yet that behavior was the same. Um, and it got really, really easy to engage in being false, um, to the point where being real became a real struggle. Um, and yet, the entire time, I knew what the truth was deep down. Um, and I was having a conversation today with a friend. He's not a young person, but he's just a little bit younger than me. Um, and we have some parallel experiences in our life, one of which is a divorce, when there are children involved. And we were talking today. This friend of mine is going through some stress and having conflict with his ex. And I recalled something I was told by an older mentor way back when I was doing my adventure in that world. Uh, I was given the advice that no matter how bad it got, to always be kind to my ex and about my ex when children were anywhere nearby. Um, and was not always easy, but this person who told this to me He was told me, you always make sure they're getting Christmas cards and birthday cards and Mother's Day's cards. And, no matter how mad or how angry you might be, keep it to yourself when you're around them. And I'm so grateful for that advice because as wounds healed over the years, having followed that advice, um, it it saved me from having other wounds to need healing. I'm very lucky and happy to say that now it's pretty kumbaya around our extended families. Everybody gets along. And so when I was talking to this guy, he was saying how hard that is, and I was agreeing and I could relate. And his experience and, his ex-partner not displaying that same kind of behavior makes him feel challenged. And what I told him was that what my experience has been is that the truth reveals itself as our children age. It's not what we say, but it's what they saw as they grew up. And they realize as they get older and can start recognizing things, what the truth is, what is real. Um, Kids are very intelligent. They see the world around them probably even more clearly than we do as adults. Um, and I was able to share with him a story of my daughter, who's an adult now, being at the foot of our bed a couple days ago, just popping in to say hello and expressing her gratitude for our parenting. And it was such a, like, hearing that from a person in their 20s was just like, yes, take that to the bank. Um, and I mean, there was so much time in that. Raising kids is hard, and raising kids with exes is hard. We were a combined family, and there were tears, and I probably chewed a hole in my cheek a couple times, but thanks to that one dude's advice of just being kind, um, it it was like it's worth its weight in gold. So forever grateful for that. Um, and and knowing how like hard it is at times to not say something mean or biting or, you know, express your frustration or self-pity. It it takes work, and I will not BS anybody here and say I did it 100% perfect because that definitely didn't happen. But overall, um, that little gem that I was given made my life easier and it made the people's lives around me easier. And with the wise action step of the Noble Eightfold Path, that's one of those things where, you know, as Julia says, practice makes practice. Just trying to keep that in mind as we're doing things, that if we're honest with ourselves, deep down, we all know what the right next step is. But also, like Julia said, it's hard. It's really, really hard. You know, uh, I did not show up here the first day I decided to get sober. This was a long road to get here, um, and ups and downs, victories and defeats, uh, plenty of failure in there, but not stopping, not giving up, just coming back and, finding something like this, Recovery Dharma and this Sangha in particular, um, really, really made it easier. I won't say it's easy because it's not easy, but it makes it a lot easier, to really make those right choices. And I would like to start a meditation. But also, I'd like to just bring up, while it's in my head, that topic. If you are here and you're here struggling, if you're not sober, if you're not practicing wise action at the moment, that's okay. Um, that's one of the reasons that we're here. But I would ask that if that is the case for you, remember as we're sharing that everybody here is on their own path, and some of us are struggling more than others. So, um, if that's you, just practice wise action and perhaps um, just practice in silence tonight. But uh, please, please be here. All right. So, if you will allow me to invite my bowl to ring out. Gonna invite everybody here to go ahead and find whatever position of comfort works for you. If you can find stillness, that's great. If you need to be in motion, that's great too. If you are able to find stillness and it feels safe to you, go ahead and close your eyes or soften your gaze. Wherever you are, just bring your attention to your breath. Take a nice, long, relaxed breath in. And then let it out, exhaling gently. And just start breathing in and out. Let your breath find its own natural rhythm. Nothing to rush, nothing to slow. Just breathe and be here. All of us here in this moment. Nothing needs to be accomplished. We've got this time together, this practice. As your body begins to settle, feel the rising and falling of your chest, the air entering your nose, leaving through your mouth or your nose. And as your attention is on your breath, your mind may wander, but that's okay. We're all human. This is our practice to bring your attention back. Today, we're reflecting on the third step of the Noble Eightfold Path, wise action. And wise action asks a simple but profound question. How do I move through this world in a way that creates less discomfort for myself and for others? It reminds us that every action begins long before our hands move or our words are spoken. Each action begins within us, in our thoughts, our intentions, and whether we are willing to be real with ourselves. There's an important difference between being real and being false. Being false does not always look like an obvious lie. Sometimes it's pretending we're not afraid or pretending we're not angry. Sometimes we might try to convince ourselves our actions don't matter and that nobody will notice. Sometimes being false is saying you're fine, saying I'm fine when we're not. Sometimes it's believing stories that protect our comfort today while quietly creating greater discomfort for tomorrow. Being false often promises immediate relief, Whereas being real sometimes asks for courage and discomfort in the moment. But wise actions begin by choosing what is real. Imagine yourself standing by a clear mountain lake on a calm day. The water is perfectly still. And as you look into the water, you see not only your reflection, but your life reflected back to you. And look at that reflection without judgment, without shame, just with honesty. Notice that the lake doesn't argue, it just reflects, doesn't flatter, it doesn't criticize, it just shows what's there. And that's like the quality of mindful awareness. And as you breathe, ask if you can allow yourself to become like this clear lake. Can you simply notice? Notice your body, your emotions, your thoughts, the stories that your mind tells you. And as you notice them, don't feel the need to fix them or change them. Just recognize that seeing clearly is the first wise action. In our practice, we learn that discomfort grows when we lose contact with reality. We cling to what is untrue. We avoid what needs our attention. We convince ourselves that harmful actions somehow become harmless because we have good reasons to do them. But reality always waits patiently. It never disappears. Wise action is choosing to meet reality while it is still gentle, rather than waiting until discomfort forces us to pay attention to it. As you're breathing in and out, bring to mind a time when you acted in a way that truly reflected your values of being real. Perhaps you admitted a mistake, or a time when you kept a promise, time when you apologized. Notice how those moments felt. Not necessarily easy, but solid, grounded, real. And remember that those did not happen by accident. Those were practiced. No gardener expects a tree to bear fruit the day it is planted. No athlete becomes skilled after one afternoon of training. And no student expects to master a foreign language after a single lesson. It takes practice, and practice changes us. Wise action is no different. Every honest conversation, every promise kept, every temptation resisted, every compassionate choice, every moment of admitting I was wrong or I need to change this. Each one of these actions is another repetition, another moment of training in our practice. And just like any practice, repetition slowly changes what once felt difficult into something that feels natural. Imagine sitting at a piano for the first time. At first, all the keys are going to be unfamiliar. Finding each note takes effort. Looking at that music book, that notation is incomprehensible. As you start your lessons, the strange movements of the hands are frustrating, and it might even seem impossible that you could use this thing to make music. But with every day of practice, the notes and the chords become familiar as they coalesce in time, slowly sounding more and more beautiful. Wise action creates this kind of path within the mind. A first truthful conversation may feel awkward, but the second will be a little easier, and the 100th will just feel like freedom. A first act of integrity might be daunting, but the next comes with just a little bit less hesitation. As our mind begins to recognize that honesty creates peace, kindness creates stability, that compassion creates trust. Little by little, wise action becomes something less that we force ourselves to do and more simply who we are. As you breathe, bringing your attention back to your breath, feeling that quiet rhythm within your body, ask yourself, where in my life am I being completely real? And allow whatever comes to mind without judgment. What's real? Now ask yourself the opposite. Where have I been pretending? Is it with yourself? Is it with others? Don't condemn. Don't feel guilty. Just recognize this and know that with practice, it will get easier. Remember the still lake that we looked at in our reflection, reflecting back at us without judgment, seeing our life reflected. Every one of us has moments of being real and moments of being false. We practice not to become perfect, but with practice, becoming increasingly honest becomes easier and easier. Every repetition makes the next wise action that much easier and reduces the amount of discomfort that we create for ourselves. Because all of us here touch so many others, our wise actions also reduce discomfort in our families, our communities, and even people that we don't even know and may never meet. These small actions grow bigger and spread, becoming greater compassion. Imagine placing one honest action into tomorrow, just one. Perhaps speaking a truth kindly, or admitting something that you've been avoiding, keeping a commitment, or choosing patience rather than reaction. Picture yourself taking that action and notice how it feels in your body. And as you picture that, recognize that this is not wishful thinking. This is not a fantasy. This is practice. And practice becomes character. Character becomes habit. Habit becomes the direction of our lives. Namaste, friends. I would like to offer a dedication of merit. May whatever goodness that has arisen through this practice strengthen our commitment to what is real. May our repeated acts of honesty, kindness, and wise action lessen discomfort for ourselves and for all beings. And may our lives become trustworthy expressions of compassion, bringing peace wherever we go. Namaste, friends.